Namaste and welcome to Dr. Swaroop Sampat ji. I think her
Namaste.
face is a familiar face and she needs no introduction. But nonetheless, I would like to express my admiration for everything that she represents. From the earliest memory would be her in Ye Jo Hai Zindagi for most of us in my generation. And of course, the lovely ad for bindis. I don't think we wear those. Most of us don't use those liquid bindis anymore, except maybe my mom's generation. But they still represent something special for all of us. And of course, now she is a pioneer in the field of education and has the is in the top 10 of best teachers in the world. And if one were to go through the list of the winners, they all represent fields in education which look at children from underprivileged or special backgrounds or indigenous countries or areas. So, thank you so much for all the work that you have done in the field of education and, of course, the acting.
It's absolutely been my pleasure for both. So, when I started working in education because I wanted to do something and make a difference. I thought I need to shake up the Indian education system a bit and, get new things, innovate in it. So that was my whole idea. And the other idea was that I want children to enjoy school and come running to school. So, we teachers needed to do something so that they would come running to school. And that was the whole idea.
How beautiful. Actually, I'm in a stage where my children are still in the school system, and there's nothing, while there is the lovely idea of children coming smiling to school and also returning smiling. But Swarupji, there's a new phenomenon, especially in high school, in the major cities, where coaching centers have replaced schools. And the entry into professional colleges is largely through these coaching centers. And one of the teachers told me that, Bangalore is the only city where people are so fixated about sending their children to school. Baki sare dunia mein aur Bharat mein, people are so interested in their children joining coaching centers and getting into professional colleges. So where is the mismatch? One side we have this idea of children having PT classes and art classes and having creative time during school hours, and the other extreme is this 8-9 hours of coaching centers which want to just dump information down their throats.
So I really don't know about this because I don't think this happens so much in Mumbai either, because all the schools I am associated with, we have full-fledged school which is going on. They do have tuitions, and I'm against that too, because everybody doesn't need an extra coaching. So the normal kid should be able to learn whatever they learn in school and be able to understand it, and pass well in their exams just from that learning. So that is a big problem. But this coaching center thing I think you're talking about is more college. When they have to give the exams after the 12th standard. And, I think it's terrible. We have a great problem in our country where there is not enough colleges, and seats. And then you have to pay so much. And I remember my nephew coming to us and saying, you know what, I am so sad that I'm born a Brahmin, because even though I've got like above 90%, I am not getting into college easily, the quota system, with lower marks, they're getting in. So these are things, and I'm being very frank with you. I know that you're recording it. So, this is the truth, and it's the bitter truth. So, we need to do something about that. We need to get more and more and more colleges happening, and that is happening, slowly. But it's taking too much time, so it's all these in between years that are, becoming difficult. The government, the ministry, and lots of people who are, think about education and academics are trying their best to make people understand that, engineering, medicine, are not the only colleges you could go to. You could do so much more. For example, my son has done his master's in screenplay writing and playwriting. So I studied commercial art, applied art as it was called. I mean, it was called commercial art then. So, fine arts and all these are even careers, you know. So everybody's trying their best. I would wish that this parent generation understands that, only medicine and engineering are not the only careers in the world. Yeah.
Your main area, if I've got it right, is in life skills. And just to throw some statistics at you, the 2022 NCRB report says that 13,000 student suicides were there in 2021. And over the last decade, student suicides have increased by 64% compared to 2003 to 2012. So this is a crisis, and you have mentioned in some interviews about how your work has helped stem some of this record. So what is it
That's
that
true.
has
You know,
caused this increase?
you're asking what's caused this increase. So I want to say first is that, in 2000, when I started my research, I mean my PhD, it was 1 in 7 children suffer from mental health problems. Now it is 3 in 4. So you can imagine the difference. I literally go on bended knees, hard jod ke to the ministries. Please include life skills. You see, life skills are one of the best, how would you say, it's not a method, but when you enhance your life skills, you become resilient, you can handle problems in your life. It prevents substance abuse, it prevents suicide, it prevents a lot of these problems because you become very empowered, you start knowing yourself, and you start learning how to handle problems, you start taking good decisions. The thing is, it's a skill, so you cannot learn it in 1 year. So I used to tell, I keep on and I still insist on telling the ministry and all that, that you should have life skills from nursery, like early childhood, all the way up. In fact, life skills should be one important lesson, or, a session every week, even in colleges. Because you see, every time the situation changes. Like with little kids, it could be a bullying, like, which is, then when they get into adolescence, it starts becoming a substance abuse, etc. And you start realizing the different sexes, and then that becomes another issue. Then you're bombarded with advertisements and whole lot of media that changes. That now media would not be such a huge problem in early years, but it does continue to become a problem from the time kids start watching TV, and now on Insta, and all this um, social media that's happening now. Then it becomes career problems, how to handle all that. So life skills are meant to be taught all the time, and you need to keep on practicing them. So I keep on telling the ministry about this, but we have the wise ones who write the NEP and decide, not to put life skills inside. And then there's people like me who, keep on pointing it out to the people concerned that, you missed out life skills. Then they say, oh, but we put 21st century skills. And I said, there's nothing like
Hmm.
21st century skills, because there is no core, 21st century skill. There's a laundry list, which is everybody's is different. So they say, yeah. And then, the CBSC would send out a notice all over India saying that we need to do life skills for the mental health. Why did you put it in the NEP? Why didn't you put it in the NCFSE? Because वो है तो जबरदस्ती करा सकते हैं. Now it becomes a choice. So this fight of mine is like continuously on. And everywhere I've been able to prove that people, the kids and adolescents and the young ones, who are just in college or even master programs, who did life skills, their whole outlook changed. They became more resilient, they became more powerful, they became empowered, like girls could take a stand. I remember one of my students who went into her first job, and there was one of the top managers was harassing her, and she took a stand within 1 week of joining a new job. And she said, no, I will not allow him, to try to sexually abuse me. So where will all that come from? You have to practice it and know it and learn it. And I have got 100% success rate with all the. And you know what? I've been so lucky is that I decided I won't teach in one school. So I started teaching all over India, and I've taught out especially in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, a little bit in Jharkhand, and things like that. But for example, I've taught all the government school teachers in Gujarat. I've taught government school teachers in the sensitive districts of Maharashtra, sensitive like Gadchiroli, Osmanabad, Amravati, and all that. I've taught children who've never been to school. They're in the cotton field, of Gujarat and Maharashtra. So, how to get them back to school, because every child has to be in school. Every child has to be in school. There's no, you can't play with that. Then I've taught, adolescent programs in Gujarat. All of them have always been successful. Yet, I have to still keep on fighting for it, and it makes a big difference. I've really, documented proof of how I stopped suicide. Well, not me directly stopped it, but because, they learned life skills with me, they practiced life skills with me. When that moment came, they said no. Like one said, "Ke blade haath mein thi." I was going to cut my wrists. And I thought of you and I thought of the life skills and I put it down. And I thought for a minute, this is not the way to handle it. And she says, you can see me, ma'am. I'm here in front of you, living. So it is as, like this. Yeah. So I think I've answered your question,
So,
right? You
what
want,
what is the role of
yeah, tell me.
yeah, how important it is? What is the role of in our traditions of being and doing what is according to our swabhava? For instance, in the recent IKS conference, you spoke about Jamhini Rao, and
Bro.
I saw a book on him, where there's a one page where it says it's about his life, and it says his I think his father is speaking, and it says it's okay. Dadu had said he's little, he'll get over this girly thing of drawing on the walls, and everyone had laughed. They all wanted him to learn in school, be clever, be a zamindar, grow the land. The same thing I found in Kalidas's play, where he quotes there's one poem where he talks about how the dwarf is trying to jump and touch the top of a tree, the heights of a tree in
Correct.
Raghuvamsha. So, trying to do things which people think that you cannot do or shouldn't do. So, when we talk about choosing careers or living our lives according to our swabhava, and society does not allow us to and sees it as a transgression. How have you lived your life? Have you always followed the call of what you felt was your interest and what you should do? Chandrahasji says community that you and he belong to come from textiles, and
I
that's a
conserve.
huge difference now to acting and
They
teaching. So,
my
what role does knowing what your swabhava?
my community is very, very, very conservative. But let me tell you that when I became Miss India, everyone was so proud about it and they actually celebrated it. So, yeah, how would I say? You need to take a stand against everybody, because remember, your journey is your journey, and that's how our shastras help us, and seriously, that's why I feel that the children should be learning stotras and our shastras and our itihas right from nursery. Like, again, sorry to go a bit away from your question, but I'll come back to it. uh, IKS, the Indian knowledge system, is just put in the 11th and 12th standard, and I think that's one of the biggest mistakes they're making. We should have that right from the beginning. When they say teach our children about iconic people, they don't talk of Sri Ram. And I think, people from our itihas like Sri Ram and, Sri Krishna and, all of them are the people, who guide you to be, like, not literally, but through the text and through their stories, they kind of guide you to be able to do what is meant to, what you are meant to do. How do you take up what you, so when life skills teaches you self, like the WHO life was about self awareness, but I've made mine understanding of self. And when you do Atma Chintan and you know it, and please don't ever tell me that little kids can't do it. No, everyone can. And you have to be guided to, obviously, what a little kid does would be different from what an adult does, but we have to guide it. You can't suddenly land up one day and say, okay, now I'm going to do this. So if you start guiding from the beginning, and then you don't have to worry about what this society says. I was very lucky that society never somehow, my family, in fact, it was my father who encouraged me to do all this. And my the community I came from, nobody stopped me from doing it, nobody looked down on it. But then again, remember how I was working and the people I was working with and the type of work I was doing. You see, that is another thing, is that I am for me it's very important for me to maintain my dignity. And if that is not being maintained, I'm really sad about, I mean, I can't do it. So I did have a lot of problems when I was doing films at that time, and probably that was some of the worst time. The worst films were made at that time. I was born, I think, too late. I should have been born earlier with Guru Dutt and Vimal Roy. And, Rishida was doing his last films at that time. So, but that doesn't matter. I have no, regrets for it, because then I did a serial like Ye Jo Hai Zindagi, which everybody remembers. And, we were very careful about when we did it. We did it so that we would not hurt people's sentiments. And, she would be the Indian girl. She would be a modern Indian girl. You would not say that, oh, she can't come from a, small town. You would not say that she can't be, from a big town. Renu was an Indian girl. And we took so much care, that we would not offend people, and it would be funny, but it would not hurt sentiments. So I was lucky that I had no problems ever with what I wanted to do. The only problem I have with society and people, especially in my field of academic, is that they only hold on to uh, my arts. And I'm very proud of being an actor. So if you read my bio, it'll say actor, or actor,
Yeah.
teacher, academic, or teacher, academic, no, actor, academic, author. So I'm very proud of being an actor. There's no ways I'm not proud of it. But I hate it when they think, oh, a Miss India cannot have a PhD. A actress cannot think. That stereotyping which they do to me now even is really irritating. And then I start talking, and then they realize, oh my god, we shouldn't be talking with her because she's such a hardcore researcher. So it's okay.
Yeah, but one shouldn't dismiss, even the sitcom was such a watershed. Like you said, the films of that period were, maybe it's a fortunate things were so bad that television became the big thing, especially in 1984
Yes.
with Hum Log and Ye Jo Hai Zindagi.
And
I
such
mean,
good
everyone
scripts.
forgot the bad films.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true.
And even the filmmakers, they took to making serials. We had Mahabharat, Ramayana, such a spate of
Yes,
Mirza Ghalib. Even big film
yes,
producers turned to TV. So you made such
yes,
a big difference in the world of films too. So if
yes,
anyone
that's
was to
true.
say that's not an intellectual pursuit, it's quite
I
silly.
know, it's so funny. It's like I remember once I was in a lift with some researcher, and she was much older than me, and she goes, looks at me like this, and she says, "I'm Doctor this, that, and the other." So I said, "Great," and I'm Doctor Swaroop Rawal. So she says, "Are you related to Swaroop Sampat?" So I said, "I'm her." So they say, "Oh, but you said doctor." So I said, "Yes, I do have a PhD." You know, so it's like
Wow.
funny, I mean, she was literally,
Yeah.
down nosing me type of thing, like whatever.
I think. Oh, my mother is a special educator, Swaroopji.
Oh, how lovely!
Yeah, she works at the Spastic Society of Karnataka and has been working there for 50 years. And
Super.
she's in learning disability, works with learning disabled children. So she had a question for you, and she was saying about Howard Gardner's kinds of intelligence, and you've also mentioned it before.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to his usual eight, he adds the moral and the ethical intelligence. So, how does drama help in the last two, the moral and the ethical aspects of intelligence?
See,
And
drama helps in.
the other
Sorry.
question was whether, sorry,
Yeah, sorry.
the other
Continue.
question was, are we, does everyone have artistic and linguistic intelligence, and are you bringing that out, or is that not there or less in some children?
Okay, so first let me talk about something that's very interesting. I don't go in for Gardner's view about the different types of learning so much. It is true, like you may not be good in painting, and I may be better at at painting, and things like that. That is there, but I think there's another very important set of intelligence. So the one which everybody knows and everybody thinks is the greatest is IQ, the intelligent quotient. And for a long time they just kept on testing that till they realized that we are human beings with emotions. And then came the EQ. So people started testing the EQ, and accepting that no, intelligent quotients is a very important thing. And then there was this problem about workers who were around that time when they were finding out about hyperactivity disorders, and whether a person can, do so much work sitting down for so long, and, physical quotient. And of course, how when you do, like how your physical quotient affects your health, and, how you need to, exercise, etc. So then PQ became very important too. So then IQ, EQ, PQ. And in the early 90s, the WHO talked of life skills. And one very important part of life skills: emotional learning, social learning, and cognitive. Now, we already talk of emotional and cognitive, but we've missed out social. So, like communication and, things, empathy and all that. So they added that, and it became SQ. So it became IQ, EQ, PQ, and SQ. And then the two best ones, which I think I am like totally crazily, madly in love with the two. One is AQ, and the other is what I call DQ. So AQ is the aesthetic quotient, right? So it is not about painting or art. It is about the appreciation of art, and about, how, aesthetics is such an important part of our life, and for everybody's life. You see, not only does the artist need aesthetic quotient, but the politician, the administration, the architects, the everybody needs it. Look what's happening to Bombay. Mumbai looks horrible. The reason is there's no aesthetic quotient.
Mhm.
Whereas if you look at the pictures of what the, Dholavira or Harappa or Mohenjo-daro were, the Sindhu Valley, you saw aesthetics hitting you in the face and saying, man, this is what we were, look what we've become. No aesthetics. And then the final one, the dharmic quotient. So more than ethics and everything, because our dharma talks of ethics, and, it's not a religion that we're talking about, right? We're talking about our dharma. So it is not, I don't like the idea of saying spiritual quotient, because it's not that. It's dharmic quotient, and I'm very clear about it. So it is IQ, EQ, PQ, SQ, AQ, and DQ, the dharmic quotient. And this is what makes a human
So, can
being.
you tell us what is DQ according to you? What is DQ according to you? In all phases of your life, as an actress, as as a model, they also need to have a DQ, and as a
A human
educationist.
being needs
So, is
the
does the
DQ, right?
DQ shift?
No, a shift would be a growth, maybe, hopefully, where you learn more and more. And like when I was a young girl at 16, 17, 18, and I wanted to join films, and my mom said, I cannot accompany you. I don't want your money, but I don't want you to do wrong things in life. So that was my DQ, right? That I am an artist, and, if there are the easy way outs, like selling my body or something like that, then that is not my dharma. you know and like I grew up in a family where I used to sit with my grandmother and write Ram Ram in the book, and I heard the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata and the Gita. you know so I knew what my dharma was. But if you compare Swaroop of 19 and the Swaroop of 66, there is a huge difference, right? I've learned so much along the journey, and there have been so many times. I mean, all the time, in fact, at every step, when my dharma has helped me, and I'm very clear about that. Like when I was studying for my PhD, why am I doing it? I had to be very clear about it, and my wish was to do it for the children of my country, to change their lives. You see, when I want to do that, then the whole scenario changes, right? I mean, luckily for me, I have a husband who supported me, in this, and he let me do things the way I wanted to do it. The other thing, like for example, You get so much power from, your dharma. Like, there have been moments when I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? Why have I left my comfortable home and come? So, like people would say that, when you're underprivileged or you're marginalized, you have it tough. But now think of a girl who was born in a well-off family, who was the princess of the family, and now is sitting on the ground in some, part of India, with no facilities around, because this is her dharma, to pass education there and help the children there. You can imagine how tough that must have been. So who do you think was helping me? Of course, Lord Shri Krishna and my dad, So that is what happens. The shift is that, the growth, the power you get from it, And there may be some very skeptical people listening to me now and saying, what is she talking? Well, let me tell you this. There is a huge amount of research done in America, and they have found that when your spiritual quotient is high, for example, these were done in, I've quoted them in my book, Play, Practice, Pursue, where when I taught the kids, about the stotras. Um, this was done, for example, in in hospitals, and they found that the people who had a very high spiritual quotient, as they call it, uh, they healed better, they became better, they got out of the hospital faster. And there is plenty of academic research. Okay, like, I don't know why I need to prove it, but if anybody wants it, I can give it. It's not that. Remember that you're talking to a researcher, so I can give you numbers too. But this is it. This is it. And then let me get to your question about art, for example. Now, art is something that's very beautiful. For me, art is action, research, transformation. So it's not about making the best painting, but it is about putting your ideas on paper and reflecting on it and transforming. So, I think art should be taught like that. It doesn't matter how well you can sing, but if singing gives you joy, you should be doing it. So that's where I differ a bit. I'm not totally against what he's saying. I have not done so much research in it because it was a little different from what I do. But I think art is there for everyone. And like in Indian aesthetics is
So,
Satyam
see,
Shivam Sundram.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we come across situations where we get an opportunity to learn or see dharma in action, especially on the ground in rural areas, in indigenous communities. They have a great understanding of our dharma, and which
Yes.
many of us city folk, it just has vanished. So were there situations like somebody was talking about the Adivasis? They have a certain wisdom about the land, about their how we should be with Bhudevi, and they connect with it as Mother Earth and with plants and animals. So in your interactions, have you had experiences where you had any eye openers about how they have some intrinsic wisdom which is not taught to them but passed on from generation to generation, which is not education but just a certain indigenous knowledge.
Okay, so I'll talk to you about indigenous knowledge, which is maybe not about the Devi Devtas per se, but it could be about arts. Like, for example, all the arts of our country, the folk arts, like even Santhal painting, which I presented with Jamini Roy. I had a problem when everybody said that no, you can't have IKS in the younger years. You know, do you know that I'll give you an example. Just imagine this little hut where the parents are painting. the Santhal painting. And the little kid is crawling all over his mother and father and learning painting there. Did the schools or did our great knowledgeable policy makers say, no, no, babes, you can't learn right now, this is not the time for you to learn. You come to the 11th standard and then you learn. No, it doesn't work like that. You understand what I mean? Is like बाप के गोद में बैठ के मैंने रामायण and I started loving Ramayana and Mahabharata. Obviously, when I was 7 years old, my thinking was that much only. But today, when I'm so much older and I've learned so much, I've passed through this whole journey. Today, I'm working on research on how to teach life skills through the Ramayana. So, that means so much study, not only in life skills, but even in Ramayana. Now, that is IKS, right?
Yeah.
There are lots, IKS needs to be understood as the knowledge of India, Indian knowledge systems and the indigenous knowledge of India. You cannot just say it is, and nobody does. The people who know don't say it, like it's only the Vedas or the Puranas. But it's all of it. It's not only about architecture. It's not only about building temples. IKS is about so much. It's about the way we lived. For example, I keep talking about this thing, which is um, the Khavra art from Gujarat. And that's there in Dholavira. And there's an unbroken line of learning that art till today. In Kutch, they still do that painting. Now, is that Indian knowledge system or not? You know what I mean? Because there are a whole lot of stories with that. We have the Bhavai in Gujarat, and the Bhavai talks about all the stories and all. Now, isn't that the Indian knowledge system? So don't compartmentalize it so bad that people can't learn it. Um, so I've
Yeah.
experienced all this everywhere, where as a young girl, I've been with my father who was in theater and seen the bhavais in in Kutch, and seen the
Mm.
artists of Kutch sitting on the floor doing paintings with them, and they would tell stories. But one of the most beautiful thing that came to me was from my mother-in-law, who was a simple woman from a village in Gujarat. And she, unlike my mom was an MD and cancer path, and my mother-in-law did not do much schooling, but she told me one very beautiful sentence. When I became about 50, she said, "So now you're at least you're 50 years old, and I'll tell you in Gujarati." She says, "Abe dharm nu kaam kar." She says, "Do work
Mm.
for the dharma." That is so beautiful. And they did that. They all the time working on that. The stories that come from and I think it's fantastic, and I love talking about this. So I'll tell you one very nice thing, is that I was speaking at an international conference in Gandhinagar at the Children's University. I was a guest speaker on children's literature. So I talked of the oral tradition, of the two itihasas. And I said I sat in my grandmother's lap and I heard the story of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. And that's where my love for literature started. There were two teachers there from a very beautiful school called the PM Shri School Award, who heard that, and they went back and they told their students, once a week, I mean, every day you go back and talk to your grandparents, which you don't do, and get their stories and come to us. And we will document it and make it into a small book. And so now the kids, and it's not even 2 weeks since then. And the kids come every day and they say, my grandmother said this and my grandfather said this. And this is the whole thing, you understand? So this is a small village, it's not even tribal. So I think India, Bharat is so beautiful, that there is so many things that we can learn from it. And yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Indica
hope
is
I've
involved
answered.
with a project.
Sorry, Aparna,
Yes,
I hope
yes,
I've answered your. Yeah.
yes, of course. This is a free ranging conversation.
Yes.
So, Indica is involved with a project where they want to record 1,000 stories. I think 10 from each state in the language of the state, because one is, we're all we know the stories of each state is going to be very different, the folk tales and all, and unfortunately we no longer are able to read, many of us, our mother tongue. So they want to document stories, audio and play based, so that children
Yes.
can watch local stories in their mother tongue.
That's
One of the projects
beautiful.
that Indica is doing.
That's incredible. So, what I
Yeah.
told, because this was an international conference, so I said that, you all are just talking of written. Of course, we have it all codified, and it's written. But we move beyond that. We have our songs, we have our temple walls which are telling the story, we have our dances. Kathakali actually means storyteller, and we have Bharatnatyam, we have Kathak, we have Odissi, we have all the folk dances, we have our garbas, and then we have our paintings, the patchitras and all that. So everywhere we have the story is told. So I think it's a brilliant idea.
Hmm. And in the new education policy, a lot of emphasis and was on comprehension and creative learning as opposed to rote learning. But in our traditions, rote learning was never a bad thing. Not the
So,
way it's done
yeah,
now, but
let
a
me
lot of
correct you there.
initial.
Aparna, sorry, I'll just correct your one word. It was not rote
Okay.
learning, it was memorization. There's a
Mhm.
difference.
So,
Okay?
what is the difference? So, the rote, what is the difference according to
I'll tell
you?
you. So, rote learning is learning without understanding, and memorization is learning with understanding. And that is something we are great at, memorization. If we did not memorize, none of, most of our history would have been destroyed because of the Islamic invasions.
Hmm.
So, those were the deadliest. And of course, then with the British colonization, the misinterpreting of everything. So, these two, three things would have destroyed our civilization. And we didn't get destroyed because of all this memorization that we have done. But our memorization was not just memorization, it was with understanding. And that is the difference. And that's why I feel we should add a very important look. When we do a play, Paresh and I, we memorize
Hmm.
3 hours. We can't say I'm not going to learn it up by heart. You know,
Hmm.
when we say poetry, we learn up the poetry. We memorize it, but we understand what it's about, right? So this is how I feel children should be taught. Now they're stopping that, which is very sad. Don't learn your tables by heart. Don't learn poetry by heart. Don't make it so simple. Our brain, the more you use it, the better it can be. I'm very against all this. I feel it should be there in our curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds who know so many ragas, and we have the concept of learning in the mother's womb. Even before they're born, they know they're able to grasp information. So
Yes, of course, of
there's
course.
no end to it.
Yes.
Hmm. So you take your children to temples. So do you think it's possible? While it's desirable, is it possible, given our numbers and the kind of pressures that we have? They're saying 3% of GDP is for education versus 6% for healthcare. I mean, there's so little money given to education. Is it? You have such wonderful ideas. So how do we standardize and how do we implement it for the country as a whole?
See, most of my ideas, no, are very simple and not costly. For example, when they ask me, what do you need to do a life skill program? I say that I need 40 children and an empty classroom. I don't want anything else.
Hmm.
Just, a book, maybe, for them to write down their reflections. That's all. How expensive is that? The other thing is like this 10-day baggy school concept. It's not so expensive. The government is giving a grant for it, but it has to be done well. Like, for example, how expensive is it to teach the Aditya Rhythm? One sheet, actually two because it's long. So two sheets of paper printed out in your computer because you definitely need them to go back to something. They can't just learn it like that. One PPT where I told them the whole story of the Aditya Rhythm. They learned it 2 years back and they say it every day in the school. Now, for example, after that, when I took them to the temples of Murera, they saw everything there. And the ASI guide, Archaeological Society guide, he was stunned and he turned around and told the kids that your teacher is really taught you well because they knew all the things that were there at the temple. Now, otherwise, you go to a temple or you go to a museum and you'll find bored kids. But none of my kids have ever been bored. Like when I took them to the Sabarmati ashram after teaching them the Dandi March, I only told them to go only to one section. You only go to the Dandi March section. Don't go anywhere else. And there they were all over the floor, drawing, painting, understanding it. It's because, otherwise museums are so tiring. But you can't expose the child to the whole museum in one day. So you need to be a good
Yeah.
teacher and you need to be able to explain it properly. So I don't think it's so costly what I want to do. But we need very good teachers and they need to be trained to be able to do it well.
Yeah. See, another one of the changes they said is the teachers have to do a 4-year B.Ed program. But in an interview, you talk about how who is the best person to teach Shakespeare? Isn't it a
An
dramatist or an
actor.
actor, rather than somebody who's done a 4-year B.Ed? So when it comes to subject knowledge and the love for the subject, would you say that the person who has maybe left a whole exam paper blank but lived a life in theater is a better person than somebody who's done a 4-year B.Ed?
No,
So shouldn't we have
no.
exceptions to this?
No, no, no. It doesn't work like that. I'm sorry, Aparna. You see, the whole thing is the BA B.Ed course in art education is very compartmentalized. Like the fine art teacher will be learning fine arts. The girl or the a gentleman or the boys who are interested in drama would be doing being the drama teacher. So it's not that way. And the plan is that 4 years, if they don't want to be a teacher and they just want to go back into their arts, they can. So it's designed that way that we're making artists, who are teachers. Now I have like say today over 50 years experience of theater, but I also studied education. You can't just become a teacher. So like for example, if you tell Paresh come and start teaching, he's a better actor than me, but he may not be able to teach as well as me. So like teaching is a different job altogether. Of course, I wrote that, but then at that time I was also a special ed. I was not uh, just an actress.
Yeah. So you have a wicked sense of humor, and that was like so adorable in Ye Jo Hai Zindagi. But
Yeah, that's
what role
what
do you think humor shouldn't we lighten up?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so happy, Rajeshri ji, who was there in the last conference, just as soon as I came out of presented my paper and came down, she says, your paper was fun. And I was so happy that, my paper was fun because otherwise, you need to be able to talk well and present it well. And of course, I have that advantage being an actor. But yeah, some people are so serious about everything. But I have one like that at home. Sorry. My husband is so serious, and when rehearsals I'm doing so much masti, his line to me is always picnic band karo. This is rehearsal, not picnic. And yeah, but I guess to each his own. But I think you should be able to make it interesting, when you're presenting papers and all. You can't just expect people to go on listening to you when you're just, droning and groaning about what all has happened. And you'll find this time's conference incredible speakers. I wish you were there. Incredible
Yeah.
speakers. Even these little ones were so young, they spoke so well. And they like just caught your face. It's as if they said, Suno mujhe. They were like that. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this idea
Really.
of taking individuals from history and extracting IKS from their life experiences and their works was a very good way of looking at IKS instead of only textual and scholastic knowledge.
Isn't it? It was really good. There was, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but I think it was at the right there. And he, talked about the yoga and all that. And my God, what I'm sorry to call them kids, but they are. They're like, my son's age and daughters. Like, I don't have daughters,
Yeah.
but they were so good. I'm so happy, and I was really proud of it because I thought, we'll have all these kids coming up, and becoming good researchers, and that is one area where we're very weak in India right now. Researching. We just stopped thinking. That was that rote learning thing which we talked about. Um, I always think they left 75 years back. What were we doing for so long? Why did we not
Hmm.
realize that is wrong? What they did, throw powder on us and went. Now we started protesting against it and started thinking about it. It's about time, that you don't accept what is given, like first
Yeah.
question it. So we had a really good thing. I just love Indica.
So
Yeah, I
sweet.
love the work you're
What
doing.
are your thoughts on like so
Sorry, you
kind
were
of
saying?
you?
No.
What are your thoughts on like you mentioned your son learns screenwriting in New York. You've done your PhD in the UK, and I've done my masters in the UK. So we still want some in some areas the rigor we feel is some things we can learn from the West. So, what are the things that I mean? We while we do look at decolonization, what are the things that India can aspire to learn from the West, which would help her in going towards Viksit Bharat in by
One of the things we really need to
1937?
get into is the writing and research. Our research methodology. So we were so stuck in quantitative research. But there's this whole big section of qualitative research. Now we don't know how to write qualitative research, and now it's become worse, because the social media and the concentration of our children, and it's very scary. When I work with the students at Sardar Patel University, one of the things I told them, and they would laugh when I said, even when you send a text message, see that it's grammatically correct. Because you see, that becomes your habit. You just then you want to say don't, can't, sit, won't, isn't. That's all you're using. Or I remember way back when I was in school, so it was in the 60s, like I passed out of school in 74. Uh, my teacher, would say, I never want you to write nice. Nice doesn't mean anything. It's not here, it's not there. Use a better word. So, that's how it should be. And look at our languages. I was one person who studied in an English school, and I studied abroad, and English, and then I was in. Of course, I knew my mother tongue, and I knew Hindi because I studied Hindi, Marathi, and I knew Gujarati. But then when I, suddenly started realizing it, even when I started acting, that the power of our Indian language is fantastic. And there was my husband who studied in a Gujarati school, rooted in the language, and the way he used language, it was so beautiful. So this is what I feel we need to learn, the way they are so proud of, their language. I'm talking of people in universities, okay, not every day. The normal in United Kingdoms, I think I'm as good as them or maybe better. But in the universities, and their written literature, their PhDs are written so beautifully. We don't do that because we are not used to it. We don't learn. Years everybody fighting over language. Now what's happening again, and NEP is not talking of anything like that. NEP is talking of excellence in learning the language, and then maybe have English as the language of communication, because everybody wants to learn English. But you don't have to go into English literature. Go into Gujarati literature. Go into Marathi literature. Go into Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam. Go into that literature. That's what our children should be learning. What are you fighting over? You know None of they're just fighting over the language. Are they bothered that the children are learning good language or not? I mean, that's what you should be worried about. Look at what's happening to our kids are not reading Gujarati novels, and we have Meghani, and we have such incredible writers. Marathi literature is good because the kids speak Marathi and they learn Marathi, and they got that culture of art in Marathi. So I think that's what's important. Our languages. We need to improve on our languages. We need to improve on how we read and write. And we need to get out of that, we need to get out of all that mindset of Islamic and colonial colonization, the British colonization, and understand that we are thinking people who probably got the best shastras in the world. If you just, I'll give you one example.
So,
1 minute, I'll give you one very beautiful example. Now, if you teach the children, this is about teaching. You've got to be a great teacher for this. Now, supposing I teach my children the Hanuman Chalisa, okay, or I teach them the Aditya Hridayalam. Do you know how well it's written? It's got the description of the person and all the things that they do, and like the relatives. And then if you think about it, why is Kuber the relative of Aditya? Because if you don't have the sun and you don't have that strength, you're not going to be able to earn money. It says that it destroys the fog. But does it only destroy the fog? Doesn't it destroy the fog of your mind? When you are in the sun, there's no depression happening. I mean, you think of what they wrote and study it, which we are not doing. We are not valuing this. और फालतू में कुछ झगड़ा करते हैं. I'm ruining all the children's education. Because the NEP, according to me, is one of the most beautiful documents there. And so is the NCFSE. So, find the way to do it. No, we won't implement it. Are what do you mean you won't implement it? Yeah.
I think you should become a politician. Stand for elections.
Can you imagine? Everybody says, become a politician. No, I can't do it. Yeah. Like somebody's open a school. I said, no, I don't even want to do that. I don't want to just do admin. I want to be that key teacher who thinks of, lovely things for the kids to do and, all that.
Yeah, that sounds so nice. What do you think is the role of drama, theater, and films in promoting language? Right now, it's like
It's
the regional film. I have a lot of friends from the north who are now following films from the south, especially from Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and we all love films from the north. So, is are we missing a trick in not using films as to bring about this change in loving
You know
language?
what we are doing? I'll be very truthful. When we are watching a South film, we are watching the Hindi dub. So we are not really looking at the language, which is wrong. I'll give you an incredible example of how it should be. My father was the chief producer of the Indian National Theatre, and he loved Satyajit Ray. So guess what he did in his college days? He went and learned Bengali because he wanted to watch Satyajit Ray's
So,
films. See, that is what it is. You know what I
how
mean?
lovely.
And yeah, so, but I think films and television and arts like have a great role in making understanding our languages and understanding spreading the languages and understanding the beauty of other languages too. So, like, even though I'm not a Maharashtrian, I go to see Marathi plays because I just love the plays that they make. And, I can speak Marathi and I can read and write Marathi, and I'm very proud of it. So, I think it is, but it all boils down to a lot to what you can do in school and when all this should start. If parents can't do it, teachers should be able to do it. So I think one of the things we really need to do is shake up our teacher education system and make better teachers. Not that they're bad, I'm not saying that. They're nice, they're kind, good, but they are not different. They need to have that love for teaching. They need to have, teachers must have that love for language and, art and, the beauty of it and, the love for Bharat and the love to understand the real history. That's when you can, be a good teacher.
Yeah. I mean, you're the ideal teacher. As a parent, I used to dread PTA meetings because it's always a litany of complaints about how many rules were broken and no self control. And this was like first grade, second grade students. So, I mean, there's so many rules. Do you think that we are like a very rule bound? We're working within rules rather than what outcomes we should focus on.
Yeah, we should. And I do a very interesting thing in my workshops is I make them make the rules. And otherwise we're just breaking rules. The rules are there for our good, and we're breaking it like red signal. Nahi, chhod na break it. Arey, why? Like, don't cross this line. It's not the dotted line. It's a continuous line. You can't cross it. In the car. No, no, it's okay. You overtake from the left. Why all this? I think it all goes back to school. Because some of the parents are hopeless. They can't do this. So at least the school should do it. Teach the kids well what to do.
Have you
Like
ever thought
somebody
of
has to do
starting
it.
your own school? Have you ever thought of
No,
starting your own
I
school? And
no, I don't want to start a school of my own because I don't want to be caught into administration and running of the school. But there is one friend, her name is Nima Parekh, and she is the principal or the head teacher of the PM Shri School in Lavad. And she says, Swaroop, one day we'll start a school of ours. And I say, no, I'm not going to do it. She says, no, you don't do anything. You just come and teach us how to teach. And you make all the crazy plans that you want to make, for the children. But we will do all the admin. So I said, okay. So hopefully within another 3-4 years, we'll start a school like that, which is, going to be the greatest fun school. And their children will be learning and running to school, to go and learn things in different ways.
yeah,
Yeah, it's all there, in
how
the
lovely.
NEP.
We're looking forward to hearing that news.
Yeah, of course, I'll call you up and tell you, come and see
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much, Swati, and
Thank you.
looking forward to having more such conversations with you.
Sure, definitely. I really enjoyed it. It's my favorite subject, so I can go on and on about it. I'm sorry I sometimes interrupted you very badly, but okay, doesn't matter.
Not,
Definitely.
not at all. Actually, that's the fun way.
Yeah.
So,
So hope to see you soon.
thank you. I'm a great lover of art, especially music, and it saddens me no end that only a few people in school learn music and they learn it privately, and then they come and perform on stage while the others just clap and forget about
I
it.
know.
I have the same strong feelings that music should be part of all our lives.
Yes, music and dance has
So
to be a
hopefully,
part of it, yes. And how much you can learn from it. So, yeah, let's see in our world. Okay,
yeah.
see you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye bye. See you.